Welcome to the Point of No Return podcast, a show at the intersection of technology and strategy. On this show, we interview industry leaders and experts to better understand how they think about strategy during this time of exponential progress.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Point of No Return podcast. Today is a special show. I spoke with Frederic Bastien, CEO of Mnubo. If you're at all interested about this IoT/Internet of Things space, you definitely have to listen. Fred was really generous with his time, and I learned a ton about his company, but also where is IoT today and where IoT is headed. A little bit of background on Fred. He's a passionate entrepreneur with a keen sense for innovation and value creation. He founded Mnubo, and he's driving Mnubo to be this catalyst in opening up the Internet of Things space for OEMs to maximize value from the data they're generating from their connected objects. Fred's also been widely recognized as an entrepreneur. He won the 2014 Ernst & Young Emerging Entrepreneur Award, as well as the 2014 PwC Vision to Reality Award. He has over 20 years experience in the mobile and data industry, and he's been really leading Mnubo to the forefront of IoT. On the show, we spoke about his career progression, how he moved from the world of telecom tech to IoT, the unique insight he had, and the reason he founded Mnubo, how he's helping their customers shift their mindset from a technology to a business model, their recent founding of $16 million, which is really helping them grow at a faster rate, and what they're planning on doing with that funding. And then finally, a little bit about Mnubo's competitive advantage in the space and how he sees it. Fred has a really interesting company in the space. And like I said, I learned a ton about IoT, and they have a very interesting opportunity ahead of them. I hope that you'll enjoy the conversation. Fred, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for coming here.
It's a real pleasure to be in your office. I've never visited the Mnubo office, so it's great to see you guys growing and here in the beautiful Tekelec.
Yeah, Tekelec, like quite an important building from an history standpoint if you think what we're doing now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I actually didn't make that connection.
Yeah, first Nortel manufacturer. So
interesting. Yeah. We'll get to your time at Nortel. Actually, my first question to you would be how did you develop an interest in communication tech? How did you fall into that space?
That's a really good question. I mean, I was studying engineering at Polytechnique, and was fascinated about aerospace. So basically my first choice was let's go into aerospace. Got accepted in a very special program, financed by SPAR. Do you remember? Like there were a few companies back in the days in Montreal, aerospace, CAE, SPAR, and the likes. And, after a first year, ended up finding an internship in telecom, and I loved it. And I just quit the aerospace program to get back into telecom.
And that's where you worked like 6 years, I think, at Nortel, right?
Actually, there was before that. Okay. I was, I think, employee number 19 at Fido. So,
oh, wow. Okay. Was it still called Microcell?
It was Microcell.
Okay.
I was basically Microcell had many divisions. So this is like early 96, so before the brand Fido existed. And Microcell had called Microcell Connections was building the network. Microcell Labs was doing research and wanted to start an internship program. So I was the first intern in Microcell Labs, and then spent the summer with Microcell Connections installing the first switches, the first antennas in Montreal for Fido.
Wow.
So it was, great experience.
That's really cool. And then you spent a good portion of your career as well.
Yeah, I decided I still had 2 years of Polytechnique to do, but I decided I wanted to work through these 2 years at Microcell, because launching the first GSM network in Canada was quite a challenge, and I loved it. So I basically spent those 2 years and then stayed at Microcell and Fido for some time until I joined Teleglobe in 98, I believe.
With François Charles.
Yeah, well, with Charles and then everyone else there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And from there, after having spent some time, Teleglobe, was this before or after your stint at Nortel?
That was before as well. So with Teleglobe, I ended up being responsible for international site deployments. So the travel bug really got me there, and I was based in Japan for a while, and then in Amsterdam and like did about like 7 cities in a year and a half.
Wow.
Like basically being based there. And then I joined Nortel. My wife said like enough travel.
Settle down.
I found like a job with less travel, which wasn't in the end, but anyway, that's what we thought at the time.
So we'll fast forward a bit. You spent obviously a chunk of your time there, and then you decided to launch your own company, right? Blue Slice. Walk us through that thought process.
And
right?
actually, Blue Slice was not. I didn't found Blue Slice.
Okay.
Yeah. Blue Slice was started by a serial entrepreneur in Montreal called Stéphane Wacnin.
Okay.
Great guy, and I joined him in the early days.
Okay, so you're an early employee of
Yeah. I think they had started for a while. They had good tech. They needed help in developing the business and getting the right product market fit and so on. And that's kind of when I joined as head of products, VP products. So that was in early 2006. And I came back to Montreal with that because I had spent many years outside of Canada before that. And we took it from almost like 1 or 2 clients to 25 clients in several countries and like a really nice run rate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So what happened after it was acquired?
We got acquired in 2010 by a company on the NASDAQ called Tekelec. Like from our perspective, it was a giant, right? Because they were like maybe 500 million in revenue and several thousand employees. And the founder and CEO left at that point, so I was asked to be the GM for that business line. So I took that role, commuting North Carolina, Montreal. Basically, we more than tripled the business in a year and a half. And then that got acquired by Oracle, an even bigger company.
A small fish.
Yeah, and then we decided then not to stay, right?
Okay.
So I left at that point because it was getting too big.
Yeah. You had the startup bug in you.
Yeah, and like Blue Slice was doing database for telecom. And we had found, we talk about pivoting startups, right? So we had found a market we didn't expect, which was telecom providers wanting to connect cars, mining trucks, electricity meters, right? Also known as machine to machine. So this became a niche market for us. We won pretty much everything, right? We won all of the better known and most successful machine to machine service providers. Big driver for us to be acquired by Tekelec. And so for us, like mixing machine to machine or connect the kind of the ancestor of IoT and data and databases was already part of our thought process. And in 2012, we decided to actually start a business just to do that.
So what made you make the leap of faith? Was it a hard decision, or because you saw the opportunity, you're like, screw it, we'll jump in?
It wasn't a hard decision to decide to leave the Tekelec Oracle environment. I think it was, like, as I said, just too big, and we wanted to control our destiny. We knew there was, we were naive. We knew that there was something in IoT. We felt that if Nest and Fitbit had been successful in creating business models around data without a dependency on the cellular operators, we were just seeing what are the implications of this for makers of valves and turbines and everything else, right? And that's the problem we set to solve, right? Yeah. Let's take that data from other type of equipment and create business value around it.
So the realization was there's something going on with these 3G, 4G networks.
Or even Wi-Fi, right? Yeah.
And we can essentially bypass and create our own business model that's not dependent.
Yeah.
In the value chain, it's not dependent on a big telecom, for instance.
Yeah, and in that value chain of you have traditional mechanical, electrical devices, whatever they are, right? Whether they're a fridge or a massive turbine, and they're gonna get connected to the internet at some point, right? This was the promise of IoT. So who has the most to win or to lose when that happens, right? And typically what we saw is like the manufacturer of that machine or that equipment is the one that will either be completely bypassed by a newcomer, like Nest has done to traditional thermostat makers, or will just be the one wanting to do it. And if they want to do it themselves, do they have the skills? Do they have machine learning skills? Do they have data pipeline scaling skills and all of that? And that's when we decided to build a platform.
And why did you choose, when you're sitting around and you're still, you and your co-founders, still the idea phase, how did you choose industrial, for instance, as the first wave? It sounds like you had the idea for Mnubo. You haven't pivoted with air quotes a lot. Like you've stayed true to your core vision.
Yeah, we stayed true to the vision of making sense of data from equipment. We had picked 3 verticals initially, which didn't materialize, right? So we in our business plan, if you put it that way, we thought, health and transport and industrial would be the 3 verticals we would go after. And very soon into it, we realized that consumer devices were just, the hype was there, it was happening there, and we had customers ready to pay. So we ended up winning consumer device makers first. So our first 2 years at Mnubo was with consumer device makers. Right.
Interesting.
So it's only in early 2015 that we started really getting traction and success on the industrial side. It took more time. And actually it was really market maturity.
Yeah. In those early years, how did you think about timing? Because I guess you realized that from your previous experience, you're like, well, connecting machine to machine is a thing in the telecom space. Were you ever concerned that, hey, we're maybe a bit too early and this is a bit more, the actual paying customers are a bit more far out in the future? Just curious to see your psychology at that time.
We always knew we were early for the same simple reason that we didn't have that many competitors, or the companies that were in our field were kind of adjacent or solving connectivity problems and solving device management problems, not solving the actual data problem. So we felt we were early, and at some point they would catch up or something would happen. We didn't realize how early we were. So, like today in 2018, traditional equipment manufacturers, that have been manufacturing valves for 60 years, wake up to the IoT and say, oh my God, if I don't instrument my valve, I'm going to be out of business. But that's happening now, right? 6 years after we started.
Yeah. So you have what is it? It's a 10-year overnight success, right?
Yeah. We'll talk again in 4 years when it's going to be 10. But still, our first 2 years of, fitness bands, smart home equipment, thermostats, and the likes are extremely relevant, right? We learned a lot, with those use cases, and it allowed us to understand which ones would have success and which ones would not. So we still have today a very good installed base of smart home equipment, thermostat, heating devices, and so on. And those have real business cases. But everything that is kind of a fitness band, a connected bike, and so on, that's just disappeared.
Yeah. How would you describe today's business model for Mnubo?
Our business model has evolved quite a lot, from selling a piece of technology, right, to delivering business outcomes, right? So when we talk to clients nowadays, well, first they come to us as and view us as a trusted advisor. They say, hey, we're collecting data for 2 years from our HVAC systems and we're doing nothing with it. And it's not that we haven't tried, right? So I think they view less Mnubo as, hey, you have a cool software stack that I can do AI on, but more as, about predictive maintenance, about reducing truck rolls, about these other kind of business value propositions that data enables. So we're really moving from selling a SaaS subscription to an analytics software, which is still part of the pricing model, to, hey, what's the value of this use case for your business? Right?
Oh, interesting. So you've moved from a flat fee to more value-based pricing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always a subscription to the platform somewhere in the engagement, because we're not a professional services company, but we definitely have much more strategic engagements at the C-level with our clients and around the world, right? From Japan to Montreal.
Yeah. So the decision maker at your client level is in the C-suite. Is it the CTO? Is it the CEO? Who do you typically have to talk to?
It's C-level. It will be kind of head of product, VP products. For manufacturers, it's mainly the product organization or the operations organization. Those would be the key buyers. So they either have a product that they want to improve or they want to innovate, or they manage service, maintenance, and operations, and they need to be more efficient, right? Those would be the two key stakeholders. But you also have a lot of CTO innovation teams. Those more innovative clients, they try not to be an hardware maker anymore, right? So they're saying, "Oh, I don't want to sell a chiller. I want to sell cold air as a service, or I want to sell an insurance against downtime on your refrigerated restaurant fridge," right? So they want to change the model from. And that's exactly what we enable.
Yeah. You mentioned that you guys are not a professional services company, but I imagine that there is a bit of tension to move in that direction to a certain extent, right? Like charging billable hours and having mandates that are more custom for clients that don't understand the basics of, let's say, AI and how to connect.
Yeah. We have about a quarter of our revenues from services, right? And that's not going to go down, right? I mean, not in the foreseeable 2-3 years. And the reason is that there's no magic in AI, right? So I think anyone who sells AI as being magic is plain lying.
Well, like 80% of it is just the data collection, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the beauty of it is we have a world-class in-house built platform that can collect, clean, and enrich data from equipment. So we've seen hundreds of types of machines. So that piece is one that we were probably 10x faster, just because of what the platform does natively. But then, on top of that, tuning a model to predict a failure of an HVAC system or to predict energy consumption in a given machine. Well, we built a lot of libraries that make us go faster, but there's still an element of training on the data of that client.
What's the end value for the customer? Are they buying because there's less downtime, so they save money? Or are they able to generate a better yield from their products because of the data?
It's everything, right? Meaning it's typically classic. It's either they can generate more revenue or save costs. But in the generate revenue, some will, as an example, measure churn, predict churn thanks to the data from the device and take actions to have less churn on their device. Some will create new business models on the side. So let's say you have that data. Can you use it to create an aftermarket filter business? Right. And basically creating new lines of business. If you're supplying boilers to dry cleaners, right? So you're a manufacturer of boilers. Obviously if the boiler goes down, the dry cleaner loses like a week of profit from its business, and they probably insure themselves with their local insurance. So can you, as part of selling a boiler, now sell a guarantee against downtime, but actually underwritten guarantee, right? That's built on a predictive analytics system. So you basically create new revenue streams for clients is the holy grail. And then cost reduction happens everywhere. It happens in better managing your supply chain, your inventory, better managing your truck rolls of technicians going in to do maintenance, and so on.
Yeah. It sounds like with the expertise you guys have built, like your addressable market is huge, right? So how do you think, I guess two-part question is, how do you think about addressable market? And then how do you make the tough calls to choose what segment of customer to go after and try and work with?
Yeah, we're trying to go first. I mean, there's several criteria, right? So one is obviously they need data, right? So markets who are in the very early days of collecting data for us are less interesting. So they need to have like got in on the IoT bandwagon for a couple of years. And from that point, I think the low tech area from a data and software standpoint have been good markets for us. So if you see the ag equipment market, has been really successful for us. The building equipment market, everything lighting, HVAC, access control has been really good. So that's how we look at it. And obviously those are areas where we have quite a gravity of data already. So it's, yeah.
Interesting. And then how would you describe your company's current strategy? Is obviously you guys made a small announcement this week about raising some money.
We closed a B round earlier this year. Very, very happy, excited about it. This was every time you raise money, you have to think, what are the two things you want to achieve that money is not solving, right? And then find the investors that solve those things. And yes, it comes with a check, right? But everyone can write a check in the end. So we really wanted to enhance the technical AI offering with business value. And Munich Re, who's one of the largest reinsurer in the world, is providing that angle of equipment breakdown guarantees and insurance on the industrial side around an analytics platform. Right. So that was quite strategic from that standpoint to create joint products with them. And then obviously we want to secure the long-term viability of Mnubo. And this is eventually consolidating market. So we want to be the ones doing acquisition and not the opposite. So getting IQ and FTQ on board, who are very strong supporters of the ecosystem here, is in that right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, so to paraphrase it back, it's a very interesting approach, right? So one is you have a strategic investor right now on board, which is going to help open up new markets and new product opportunities. And then two, doing some M&A, because now you can go and acquire more talent, smaller companies. There is going to be this natural consolidation in the space. There's been a lot of companies funded in IoT, and there's the hype cycle is starting to kind of stop. And now it's like, okay, we're seeing real practical use cases and real revenue flowing.
Yep.
So it sounds like you've timed the market pretty well from that perspective.
Well, it sounds like it indeed. The IoT has lost its hype and sexiness maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, when it disappeared from the Gartner hype cycle, which I was very happy about. Yeah.
What are your current priorities? Like I said, you mentioned you those two, but at a company level,
priorities. Well, for sure, we have huge traction outside of North America. So establishing, we know we can serve really well North American companies with the Montreal headquarters and all the data scientists here and the staff here. It's easy, but we have like a quarter of our revenues coming from Japan, clients in Singapore, clients in a bit everywhere in Europe, with very little presence, if no presence. So one of the priorities is staff those regions in the right way and be able to support that growth. So we're opening Japan office. We're doing a number of things there. And obviously the other priority is keep adding non-tech financial products on top of our software stack. So, again, going without getting into too much confidential information, the partnership with Munich Re is definitely helping.
Interesting. Yeah, you piqued my interest, but I won't bug you. Is there anything that keeps you up at night right now?
Oh, hiring is our number one concern right now. Yeah. We when we raised the B round, we were 44. I think we're 52, 53 this morning. And that's like a couple of weeks ago, right? So we still have to hire a good 10 people before the summer, and it's hard. Yeah.
And the market's hot and technology.
And Montreal is bubbling. Lots of great companies here. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge. You want the best people, because you know what it is, right? You don't start a company and have success without the right team, the right guys. They make the difference. So that's very important.
Along those lines, what would you describe then is Mnubo's competitive advantage? You have a huge data set. You You have a talented team. How would you describe it?
Yeah, huge data set. The best team, in my opinion, in terms of the stack we've built and the expertise. I think one big differentiator, and I won't talk about tech because we have several differentiator from a technology standpoint in Mnubo's platform, but one big differentiator is that we truly understand how a manufacturer thinks, right? And we've been there again and again and again. So when, I'll take our largest client is Johnson Controls Hitachi, right? So it's, they're Tokyo based, second largest maker of cooling systems in the world. And, JCH, they've talked to every big data analytics AI company in the world, right? Actually, Hitachi, one of the owner, has their own kind of AI arm, right? But when they talk to these companies who come from either they're completely vanilla, they do analytics and machine learning for anything, for financial services, for health, for credit cards, for retail. Well, then they don't get the right people in front of them that truly understand their problems, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like you guys come in, you have the tech background, but you can also put yourself in the customer's shoes and then make it contextually relevant.
Yeah, exactly.
That's huge. Yeah. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about the industry, right? Because you've been in the space before. It was on
before it was called IoT.
So what are you most excited about right now? That's happening.
I'm excited about the traditional sectors getting into the connectivity bandwagon. Really excited about that, and the new opportunities that this generates for us. Definitely excited about because it used to be the techies and the CTOs in these companies would be interested in talking to us, right? And now the CFOs and the CEOs are into it, right? Because they see the balance sheet impact. So that drives our growth, literally, right? Because you don't sell just bits and bytes.
Yeah. Sounds like you guys are at the front lines of like the whole world is getting connected. We're moving from the industrial age to the information age, and you guys are really at the forefront of the rest of the world. Everyone talks about like the big tech brands that they're nice and sexy, but most of the world is still pretty analog. It's still very physical, right? And you guys are at the forefront of connecting that physical world.
Yeah. There's another thing that's super interesting is like we've built our own set of libraries and insights for manufacturers, right? On top of the Mnubo platform. But what we're seeing now is companies knock at our door who are not manufacturers. They build solutions for retail. They build solutions for building energy. And they just don't want to start from the building blocks of AWS and Azure. And so we've launched just before Christmas a PaaS offering. So a platform as a service that let them go faster and basically use the tools that we use internally as a platform to build their own stack.
Yeah. Do you have your platform play as well?
We have now a platform play that's just growing. Like we have our first 3 clients on the platform.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So we'll see how these two,
What's happening in your estimation in the space that no one's talking about or that's not garnering enough attention?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, I'll have to think about that one.
The one thing I see, because my knowledge of IoT is very primitive, but I feel it goes back to what you mentioned before. It went on this hype cycle, it kind of disappeared, and people have written it off. And it's not capturing enough attention. And I think just generally in the business press, but I think most of the value is going to be in what you guys are doing in the sense of connecting the physical world to the online world. So that again, that's a very my primitive knowledge of IoT, but that's why I was just curious to see it from your perspective.
I think when you read the Gartner, McKinsey, or whichever analyst firms reports, they talk a lot about IoT for the operator of the equipment, right? So they talk about Industry 4.0 like manufacturing shop floor. And they talk about how farms are doing better with IoT, and they talk about the operators. And I think that gives a very limited view on the size of the market and where the knowledge is. And that's why we think the angle we took to the IoT market, like we're not trying to win a manufacturing shop floor optimization problem. There are like hundreds of companies doing it. They're expert in it. It's custom every time. But every robot or machine on that floor, as a manufacturer who typically knows a lot more about their machine than the guys operating it. And this is where you have an opportunity to create something very interesting by working with the makers.
Like almost like at the operating system level.
Yeah.
Versus the, like you said, the buzzword of manufacturing 4.0, where everyone's talking about optimization problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I guess my last question to you, Fred, would be what are you keeping your eye on in the industry? Are there any particular technologies or companies that you're checking out?
I mean, our market is a market of giants, right? So obviously, like we're partners with Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Samsung, and yeah, dancing with giants, it's interesting. And so we keep an eye on them, where they're going. They're obviously good partners, reselling our stack when it makes sense. So that's something we look at. We think there's going to be a lot of innovation coming out of China that is everyone is blindsided right now in IoT, but there are huge things happening in China. So we need to watch that really carefully. But yeah, there's going to be consolidation. There's going to be a lot of players wanting to have a full stack. Right now, there's less than 3 or 4 companies in the world who have a full IoT stack. So it's going to be interesting.
That's great. Well, I wish you guys continued success. And it sounds like you're in the first inning of the opportunity. And I guess final question would be, where can people find out more about yourself or what Mnubo is doing?
Well, kind of every social network has a Mnubo presence. You can go to www.mnubo.com. Obviously, we're quite active on LinkedIn and Facebook. Our team is I think we attend like 15 trade shows a year. And not the IoT trade shows. So if you're going to an HVAC trade show, a plumbing trade show, a pork and poultry equipment trade show, you risk finding Mnubo there. So I think many places where you can hear about us.
That's great. Thanks for your time, Fred.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to the Point of No Return podcast. Never miss an episode by clicking on the subscribe button on iTunes or Google Play.